do you think?
I'll never give up, never surrender. Never give up, never surrender. Never give up, never surrender. You heard it, WCRS. We will never give up, never surrender. Keep listening right here on WCRS. We try harder because we will never give up. We will never surrender. Okay, we will never give up. We will never surrender. And that's why I sit in this seat day in and day out. Let's see, let me get comfortable here now. That's right, we are live on Facebook. So good morning, Greenwood. How you doing here today? Woohoo! I guess you're fired up today, Ann. Yeah, I am kind of fired up today. Hope you are going to be a little fired up here today, because we got some interesting things to talk about. And I hope that you will engage with us. Again, that telephone number 864-332-9355. All right. So, City Council last night was a very busy meeting last night. They covered a lot of topics. We are seeing a lot of the zoning. The developers, I guess, are coming in and trying to change their zoning. They may have applied for one level of zoning. Now they want to put more houses on a lot, or maybe they want to put less, or maybe they want to combine different types. But anyways, there was quite a few of those last night that came up. And it was interesting. It was interesting to watch the comments. You know, if you go back, and you can always go back. In fact, theirs is on the city's Facebook page. I think it's City of Greenwood Facebook page, and you can watch those. If you miss one, you can go back and watch it. So I would recommend, and the thing about it is, you can either do it in double or triple time if you want to speed through it, or if there's a part you really want to watch and listen to, you can slow it down. So, anyways, first up, they had a speaker, which you can sign in and make a comment about something, and this is they had just one person, who wanted to speak. Now, you may remember it was back, I think it was October 10th, that the City of Greenwood attorney, Tripp Padgett, had, well, weeks before, but this is when they got the opinion on October the 10th, I believe it was. He had asked about a hate crime ordinance, and since we do not have a statewide law on this, it has never been approved by the legislature, and that's who has to approve laws, was a local ordinance for a hate crime ordinance legal? Would it hold up? Well, this he had done, I think, back in the summer. It took a while to get a decision out of the state's attorney's office, which of course is Alan Wilson. And in a nutshell, it said that although there are many counties and cities, municipalities that are going ahead and doing this with the hopes, I think some groups hope that if they put enough pressure with the individual municipalities and counties, that eventually the legislature would take that up and pass a law, since South Carolina is one of only 2 states in the nation that does not have a hate crime ordinance. Now, as has been explained, this an ordinance simply adds the possibility for enhanced penalties if they can prove that it was a hate crime. Of course, part of the problem is isn't any crime kind of a hate crime? But I digress. The point is that he said that if this was challenged, that he didn't believe it would hold up. And that's simply because the only place that, quote, laws can be made, and or an ordinance, I guess, is through the legislature. So while all of these, I don't remember how many is, 10, 15 counties and cities have put these forth, if it was challenged, it could be set aside unless the legislature passes such a law to begin with. Otherwise, and this is a good point, is that you could have hate crime A over here in McCormick, hate crime B in Greenwood, and hate crime C in Ware Shoals, for example. That's just saying they could all be different. And of course, the law should be equal across our state. So I think that was the part of it that I particularly remember without reading it exactly to you. You also may remember that this first came up after the first of the year. Dr. Jamal Brooks went in front of City Council and asked them to consider doing a hate crime ordinance. And that is what triggered this whole conversation with the attorney, getting the Attorney General's opinion to make sure that everything is legal. You know, one of the things that I've got to commend our city on, so many different cities, municipalities, something like this comes up, they just go ahead and do it. However, Trip Paget went the extra mile to check and see if something like this would be legal and would it hold up. So he took the opinion right to the top, and that is to our Attorney General, which at this point is South Carolina Attorney General, that is, to Alan Wilson, who is also a candidate for governor. And that's how we get to where we are. Now, Dr. Brooks, I believe, had been there 2 times before. She came back for a 3rd time. This is since the opinion came down on October 10th. She came to council to ask some questions. And I think they are very interesting questions, and I thought it would be worthwhile sharing that with you here this morning. This is to do with a hate crime ordinance that she had asked for Greenwood, the city of Greenwood. So without further ado, I'm going to play that for you, and then we're going to have a little discussion. Hope you will decide to get in on the discussion here. Let's see, here it is. Dr. Jamal Brooks, City Council, 1020. That was last night right here in Greenwood. Take it away.
What do we have up next?
We have one public appearance this evening, so I'd like to at this time recognize Dr. Jamal Brooks.
That's the worst.
Good evening, Dr. Brooks.
Hey, how are you all?
All right.
What's my time? 3 minutes, right?
5.
We tried to do we tried.
Okay, let me calm down.
All right.
I got excited. Y'all gave me 2 extra minutes. But no worries. I got it covered. We're going to stay less than that. So let me start by saying my appearances here are never to be disrespectful, but I don't make apologies by being persistent and consistent. I will always consider myself as a voice for the vulnerable population. That's just what I do. And I don't make apologies for that. And when there are things that I think needs to be brought to the attention, I bring it in a way that I hope can get it addressed. So I'm back again for the same thing that I was here for on 2 other appearances. And I just got a couple of questions, so this should go fast. So Mayor Smith, tell me how you want me to do the questions so that I stay within the time frame. Do you want me to ask all 5 of them at one time, or do you want me to and then get the answer at the end, or do you want me to ask and then answer?
Well, this is your time to speak. We're really not in a question or answer situation. If you have questions,
I do.
we can.
That's my purpose.
If you want to ask those, again, this is your time to ask it. If there's
Okay.
something, we can get back with you, but we're not answering any questions directly from up here this evening.
Okay, so my questions are not regarding the bill, it's about procedures. Okay, so the first question is, since I have been here on 2 occurrences that we've already established, we won't get an answer for, but I'm curious to know which or how many of the council people have formalized a survey, a Google form, or used text to send a survey to allow their constituents in their ward to reach out and give their opinion, or if they even feel that there is a need to have this discussion. And if so, the part of that question would have been, how much feedback did you get back from that documented experience? I'm not concerned about a phone call because those aren't documented. I'm wondering if we have any formalized surveys that went out to test the atmosphere for the constituents in each ward. That was question number 1. Question number 2 was, before the letter was written by our city attorney to the Attorney General to ask about the potential constitutional violation, how many constitutional attorneys did the city consult with before it was confirmed that it was a constitutional violation or a potential constitutional violation? That's question number 2. Okay. Question number 3. When the letter was written to the Attorney General, who has since responded, and I've read that document, it's very thorough, so if you haven't had a chance to read it, pull it down and read it, because he gave a good response back to it. But when that letter was written, my question becomes to the author of the letter: was it written in a position that was in support of developing some type of structured ordinance for this potential topic and not violate the Constitution? Or was it written to gain confirmation that it was a direct violation of the Constitution? When you write for an intent, and I'm asking the author of that letter to tell me what was the intent: to gain expert advice or to gain confirmation in what was said at the local level. Next question. Are there any other Greenwood ordinances that are currently in place that are not supported by an existing law in the state of South Carolina? Again, we don't have to get an answer, but those are things that I'm thinking. And then the last one that I'm going to give you is one that I definitely don't want to answer to, because my doctorate is in policies and procedures. So I analyze everything from an analytical standpoint. So when I'm thinking about policies, I look for things that relate, things that can be associated with. There's a correlation. So my question becomes, that I don't want to answer from: why is it that I know that everything I say can and will be used against me in a court of law in every other crime except for a hate crime? When we talk about a hate crime, we support it with freedom of speech. And everyone says that's coming against their constitutional right because it's freedom of speech. But in any other way, if I was to commit murder and I ran down the street yelling, "I'm going to kill him," when I was tried and convicted of murder, they would play back how many people heard me say, "I'm going to kill him." And that phrase would be used to solidify malice and intent. And so my only question was, how is it that it works for everything else and not for this? These are just questions of a person who reads policies. I stand before you as a person who will fight every day for the vulnerable population of all people. I don't just pick one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks. We appreciate your continued interest in this, and especially in light of the Attorney General's recent opinion. We are discussing our options in this matter. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
Well, what do you think about that? I think Dr. Brooks brought up some very valid points, Does it change the fact? Does it change the fact that the overriding issue is, will an ordinance hold up if there's not a state law? But I thought we might spend a few minutes just discussing it because it is most interesting. Number one, about the survey, about whether somebody made telephone calls or whether they did a Google survey, etc. That does not seem to go to the meat of the issue. How many constitutional lawyers does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, I don't know, but I don't really understand that question that much. Maybe there is some issue to it. But the third question, she is absolutely correct on the third question. When the letter was it written in support or was it written against? And she is correct, is that the way you phrase something can have a lot to do with it. That is a good question, and I believe that I know it is. Attorney Tripp Padgett's letter was attached and was part of it. One could make a case, I'm sure, for either side on that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this is what the Attorney General has said. Number 4, are there any other existing ordinances that are not state supported? That could get to the crux of a lot of questions. I have no idea. And that would be a question that would have to come either from our legal departments here. Our lawyers would be able to, maybe they've run up against some of these. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I have no idea. But that is a very interesting question. And across the state, are there ordinances in different communities that you can be picked up for, charged, as opposed to not consistent with what the Attorney General said, which was that it has to be a state law. Actually, he said you can put an ordinance out there. Anybody can put an ordinance out there, but it's whether if somebody wanted to get it turned over, that they could possibly, because there is no statewide situation here that upholds a law, or I guess an ordinance. So this is interesting conversation, and I thought that Dr. Brooks did a good job of asking some very pertinent questions. As she said, she was not really looking for answers right then. It was just questions to make you think about it. So I ask you, what do you think about it? Do you think that we should have the ability to have ordinances in each community? Does it make sense, number one, that it does have to come from your House and Senate? I do think the original intent of getting these different communities across the state to put in a hate crime ordinance was to get the legislature to take it up. If I remember correctly, I think maybe the House took it up. I wouldn't want to be quoted on this, but one side took it up and the other side didn't, which is one of the ways our legislature in general controls how things happen. But the bottom line is, can a municipality enact a law or ordinance that is not on the books for the state? So, are there any other ordinances? I think that's a most interesting question. I have not tried to check that out. I'm simply wanted to bring this morning this conversation to you because I know many of you do not pay attention to what's happening in the city councils and county councils, and I try to bring that to you. So 864-332-9355. You can also tell me, and I don't give a crap about it, if that's how you feel about it. But these are things that are facing our community. All right, now, the last thing was, how is it that what I say can be used against me except when it comes to a hate crime, and then freedom of speech kicks in there? How this works. I think that is an interesting point. If I say I'm going to kill you and I proceed to kill you, then guess what? I guess that was a hate crime, but it goes under freedom of speech and cannot be used in that case, but it can be used to convict you. I wanted to just say, Dr. Brooks, you have done an excellent job enumerating some of the questions that are out there on this issue, and would love to hear from our community as far as what you think about it. 864-332-9355. That's 864-332-9355. We'll have to see where this goes, if it goes anywhere, if it goes nowhere. What will the city do is, of course, the next step. Will they do anything? Will they respond at the next city council meeting to her questions? Will they do anything at all? That is the question. Or is it a mute topic until the legislature takes it up? And, of course, the bottom line is, do you think our community needs a hate crime ordinance? Legal or not legal, do you think our community needs one? While I haven't conducted a Google survey, I have talked to many people in our community, and I have to say, most everybody that I talked to, and they were black people, white people, brown people, I've talked to a lot of different people around that, I did not hear one person say, and it is something that is out of control and we need it. You may remember Dr. Brooks, the first time that she spoke, she said that our hair was on fire here in the Greenwood community. And when she was talking about relations and crimes against hate crimes, I personally have not found that to be true. I have found people tell me, no, I don't think we need that. No, we don't have this kind of problem. So I would just be curious if you have any feelings about it. And if you don't, well, we'll move on. We'll just have to keep this story as an ongoing saga about what is happening. Hearing none, going once, going twice. Oh, here comes one. I knew one would come in. What did somebody say? Let's see. George. Why are you wasting all your time on this, Ann? Because I think it's important, and I think that when somebody does a good job describing their position, that this is worthwhile talking about. And while it may not be a discussion that goes anywhere, it is something that is obviously on the mind of some people. So I thought that the fair way to do this was to bring it out. However, I don't know whether anything will come of it, whether the city or the county. The county is kind of interesting, isn't it? That the county has not been approached about the hate crime ordinance. I do not believe, I could be wrong, but I do not believe that Dr. Jamal Brooks has been to county council to ask for this. It has only been to the city, I believe. But something to think about, and who knows, you may be getting a survey coming your way. If you've got a question or a comment, I'd love to hear from you. All right, moving on here this morning, that was one of the things I did want to talk about. I also wanted to talk about an article that, a guest column from Fitz News that the South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette wrote and said, fixing the system isn't just about technology, it's about accountability. Interesting how these two things come up, isn't it? You know, right? So, this was last week, actually. This is by Pamela Evette. Was not really an interview. It is an article that she wrote. And she starts out by talking about Alexander Dickey, a career criminal with a record of 48 crimes, 31 which were felonies, should have never been on the streets of Columbia on the night of May 3rd, 2025. She goes on, this is our lieutenant governor who wants to be governor of the great state of South Carolina, who, I will tell you, I think would make a great governor for the state. I have my reasons I can enumerate later, but right now we'll talk about this. Critical failures within our judicial system and criminal databases allowed him to avoid prison and continue his life of crime, ultimately leading to the horrific murder of 22-year-old Logan Federico. The hard truth is this: South Carolina's judicial system is broken, and it's been this way for far too long. For decades, prosecutors across the state have lacked access to the data and tools necessary to keep violent criminals off the streets. This begs to question, if those within our justice system knew this was an issue, why hasn't anything been done about it? Attorney General Alan Wilson, the state's chief prosecutor, has been in office for 15 years. Surely he knew how difficult it was for prosecutors across the state to get a comprehensive information about offenders. Yet, to my knowledge, he never asked the General Assembly or the governor's office for funding to make the necessary improvements. On the contrary, within a year of his election, our new Supreme South Carolina Court Chief Justice, John Kittredge, recognized the urgent need to improve the information within our court system, and he immediately brought it to the governor's and my attention. I am proud to say that Governor McMaster and I worked with the state legislature to secure funding in the executive budget for enhanced technology to address this issue and better protect South Carolinians. But fixing the system isn't about technology, it's about accountability. Many times, the Lieutenant Governor has been right here on WCRS talking about accountability, not necessarily about this issue, but about many other issues. She says, it goes on to say, again, this is an article by Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, who is running for governor. It is on Fitz News. But fixing the system isn't just about technology, it's about accountability. South Carolina must reform how we select our judges. The governor should have the power to appoint judges based on merit, with final confirmation by the state legislature, ensuring South Carolina judges are accountable to only one thing: the law. The law. This means we need real term limits, performance reviews, and strict ethics to ensure our courts uphold justice. We must also provide our brave men and women in law enforcement with the tools, training, and resources they need to keep families safe and violent criminals off our streets. Repeatedly arresting the same offenders is not only dangerous, but it is meaningless if prosecutors don't have the data and the information to put and keep them behind bars. I can hearken back to the case where the drive-by shooting right there during the Festival of Discovery 2 or 3 years ago, where I don't remember the guy's name, but he had been repeatedly let out of jail. He had several cases pending up in Greenville. His lawyer was in Greenville. He was down here in Greenwood and shot the restaurant bar, and a girl got killed. You may remember that story. Part of the outcry from that story is that our magistrates and other judges are now getting access to the information before they put somebody out on bond. Surely this guy should not have been put out on bond, but as I understand, the information wasn't available, and therefore the judge made the only decision that was right for the time. And you know, one of the things that we quite often forget, we have to look at things in the time frame that they were. Well, I think it was 2 years ago, is when there was a big uprising to get more information to the judges and to have not magistrate judges making all the bond hearings, but depending on the crime, making regular judges have to kick it up to a higher level depending on the crime. Those things have been good things and have certainly kept more people behind bars. Okay, so we need prosecutors who are willing to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, and judges who deliver sentences that match the severity of the crime. And we need an attorney general who's willing to get involved in cases with significant implications for our state every time, just not when it suits his personal or political ambitions. I do see a little slant here, Pamela, towards the attorney general, who happens to be running for governor also. I mean, I'm just saying, I got to point that out. The case of Logan Frederico case against the Samantha Josephine, who was brutally murdered in 2019 after getting into a car posing as an Uber. Did Wilson get involved or push for the death penalty in her case? No. Why not? Her murder was just heinous. The only difference, as far as I can tell, is that he's now running for governor. Yes, Pamela's being a little targeted here against the Attorney General. We must do better. The safety of our state and its people depend on it. As governor, I will fight to close the revolving door of justice once and for all, holding every level of our system accountable from the courthouse to the Attorney General's office, and help restore the safety and security South Carolina families deserve. So, what do you think about that article? What do you think about that article? I think, personally, she's made some good points, but does it have any teeth? That is the question. You know, we always can get involved in a lot of rhetoric, but do things have that? Part of the problem that we have is judges have to appear before the Judicial Review Committee. We have seen time and time again where we have legislators who are also lawyers who have been involved in these committees, and it has been a problem. I hearken back to the case, I don't have it here in front of me, where this, what was that, a couple of years ago now, where the guy got out on parole. He should not have been out on parole. He got out on parole, and remember, they found him, I think, up in New York City, hiding out somewhere. And that was because of a relationship between a legislature and a judge. Although everybody claimed it wasn't that, that actually was what the bottom line was to that. And everybody discusses it, but there hasn't been a lot done about it. So we do need to get our position cleaned up. A lot of people don't like the fact of states where judges actually run for office. They say that is a big problem. But how do you get a judge who can be totally non-biased in a case? And should a judge just recuse themselves if he has any knowledge of any of the parties? Well, I say yes. But how many times do they, or do they not? And would a judge be just as liable to put a heavier thumb on one side of the scale or the other if he'd gotten a nice contribution from somebody if they were running for office. This doesn't affect us every day, but it is something that does affect all of us when it comes to justice. So while I think the lieutenant governor raises a great point about how we appoint our judges, I think the part of the problem is how we appoint our judges. And although they have in the legislature made some strides, they have not completely scrubbed the system and made it effective. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens this session, and then next year see who gets elected and how they handle it. I'm sure that Attorney General Alan Wilson will, if he hasn't already, make a response to it. But again, another interesting point of things that are happening out there. 864-332-9355. Somebody said, why have a justice system at all? I love it when people just throw these comments out here and just tell me, oh, and why do you care about these things? I care about these things because they affect justice in our system. And justice should be blind. I mean, that was the original intent. And we've seen too many times that justice is not blind. So whether we're talking about a hate crime ordinance, or whether we're talking about where our judges stand on the issues, and it's just like our Supreme Court. Look at what Ketanji Brown has been saying out there, and all the comments have been coming back. She doesn't know what the crap she's talking about. So how'd she get to be a Supreme Court judge? That was a time that I think is not a time that we should look fondly upon. She got the job because of DEI. Was she ultimately qualified for the job? I think a lot of the feeling is that she was not qualified for the job. So we will. Okay, we've got some other messages coming in. Yesterday, long after we got off the air, I did receive quite a message from a person who was talking about the health insurance issue that is facing our country. How the Democrats are holding out for our government shutdown, which is now in day 21. Are holding out to make sure the subsidies are kept in. And what this person was saying is that I did not discuss the issue of the big beautiful bill and what it does to the health care subsidies, and that this is a real concern. I know it is a real concern. My feeling about this is that the only way that pressure can be put on both sides is if they're talking. And the only way that you or I can make a difference, and it's just like Green, whose son and daughter, or their son or daughter-in-law, whenever their health care costs are going up, and all of a sudden she jumps to the other side of the train. People have to be talking. Keeping the government shut down will not solve this issue. In fact, it will make the issue worse, because these health care subsidies are careening right towards it. Now, I think everybody has said we need reform, but how it gets reformed can only be done through discussion. So if we're really going to make a difference here, people need to be sitting down, talking, and having discussions about what to do here. I really appreciate the gentleman that called me yesterday. I would have been able to maybe have done a better job discussing his points if he had called me on our new text and voice line. And if you call and do a voice call, what it does is it turns it into a text. So if you have a long message, the 864-332-9355 is a great number because it allows me to be able to read exactly what you have said. You don't have to text it, you can just call it. But the bottom line is, this shutdown is old, it's over. It may have been for the legislators kind of, I'll use the word cute, everybody getting their way, pointing fingers, etc., etc. It's now getting to the point where it's really hurting people. May not be hurting you in your daily life, but it is going to affect. I was reading an article this morning that SNAP benefits are about to run out if nothing is done. So we're having more and more SNAP benefits on pace to run out at month's end if shutdown persists. Quality cost of Medicare coverage vary by state. So this is U.S. Supreme Court, federal courts to run out of money, limit operations amid shutdown. I mean, you keep reading all these headlines. This is not good for our country. We're talking about a country that is the number one country in the world, and yet we can't seem to get our legislators to come together and work to get this taken care of. I don't know what the right answer for Donald Trump is in this. It would seem that making people come together would be a better solution than to keep cutting things just to show that one can. Is not the primary position of government to protect the citizens, which this is going to be a problem. He took money from one pot in order to pay the military on the 15th, but we're fast careening towards what? Another pay period. What is going to happen? What is going to happen if this persists? Are they going to be able to pay our military at the end of the month? What about your airports? Do you feel comfortable flying right now? I'd have second thoughts about it, when you go to the airport. Are you going to be able to go through the TSA? Are you going to be able to count on the air traffic controllers to make sure your plane gets up in the air and to get down? Long term, this is turning into a problem for the number one country in the world. They need to come together and get it resolved. There you go. That's my points for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. I hope you will tune in this afternoon to hear my interview with Shelley Reed, where we talk about the new movie coming out. It's a Western, Long Shadows. And Shelley is not only the screenwriter of this movie, as well as Granger Hines, but they both are actors in the movie. So exciting, exciting, exciting. And there is a premiere preview before it goes nationwide right here at the Premiere Theaters. Right here in Greenwood on November 6th. So I'm looking forward to sitting down. I have wanted to interview Shelley Reed for a very long time, and this is the first time we've been able to work it out and make it work out. So I hope you'll tune in this afternoon to see that. If you would like to go to the Pretty and Pink event that is happening this evening at the Art Center in support of breast cancer survivors. That is going on this evening. I think you can still get tickets on that. Also, don't forget that if you need help with your hurricane issues from a year ago, the South Carolina Office of Resiliency will be at the United Center over there on Phoenix from 10 to 3 or 10 to 4. I don't know, but they will be over there. They say bring any bills, proof of, etc., and they will help you get the services that you need to make you whole. So this is another thing that is going on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I believe. It is at the United Way Center right there on Phoenix. It is a great opportunity to get the services that you need right away. Also, don't forget, coming up Thursday night is the Patriots Barbecue. That will be out there at the farmers market, out there at the old Civic Center site. Let me see County Council get upset about me calling it the old Civic Center site. But that will be going on Thursday night. Life Flight at 5. They start serving food at 5:30. It is a free meal from Fat Daddy, so you know it's going to be good. It is to honor first responders and our military. So it's going to be a very patriotic event. If you like that type of thing, you should go. All right, now anything else? Wow, somebody just said something very nice. Let me read this. Let me read this. What did they say? Okay, well, we had one message that came in. They said they are working on the bridge on the Old Lawrence Highway right at Harris Landing. Okay, that's an FYI. That just came in a few minutes ago. And somebody just said, Ann Eller. What did they say? Let me read this again. Okay, they said, Ann Eller. I find your conversations very interesting. Let me read this now. And pretty close to good on point. I may disagree some, but I appreciate the fact that you tackle these issues that are facing our community and our state. Wow. And then it's signed, thank you, Jan. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like those type of things. I also take the others. I'm a professional radio broadcaster. I'm used to abuse, no problem. Hey, I'm Ann Eller. I'm here with Princess Penny here this morning. She goes, okay, it's time. Wind it up, Ann. Get out of here. I need my run and my breakfast. There you go. That is going to do it for us. Thank you for all your participation right here on WCRS. Keep it right here and make sure you are tuned in this evening when we interview Shelley Reed right here on WCRS. Put the curtain down, Ann, and cue the music. And y'all have a great day right here in the city of Greenwood and our surrounding areas. Bye-bye, everybody.
Keep on sharing. The phones are open. Keep on laughing. Give us a call. You gotta keep on caring. As long as you've got